Another American holly. This is one that's identified by a sign.
Which was done by Boy Scouts.
Which was done by Boy Scouts. I recall my mother telling me when she was in school that one year some of the boys went out in the woods and cut a holly tree down for their Christmas tree. It already had berries in it, so it was already decorated. But American hollies, I think I actually, let's see. No, I thought I saw something interesting. It's just a dead leaf. But American hollies, their natural shape is kind of pyramidal. Of course, this one's growing out here in the understory and has this tall canopy over it, so it's just kind of growing wherever. One thing about hollies is they're what we call dioecious. You have to have a male and a female if you want berries. The female makes the berries. So if this one has berries on it, it's a female. And if it doesn't, it's a male.
Now, when would you see the berries? What time of year do they come out?
You'll see them in the fall and winter, especially in the winter.
I remember in Virginia, I had a little house and woods behind me, and there were some of these trees, these hollies, and I had some, I guess, female ones. But I remember at Christmas time, and I was poor, so I would snip off some of the leaves and put them at the base of a candle, and those things were still beautiful, like in February. Just sprigs of the holly from the holly tree, so it's a good, easy, cheap Christmas decoration.
And they last so long because they have a waxy, thick cuticle coating over them, and that keeps them from dehydrating.
Okay.
That's why they'll last so long. And now we're coming up on a tree that Barrie has been asking about.
It's my favorite tree.
And I love to tell the kids that we bring out on the trail about these trees. And let's see. This one may be closer. If I can find. Yeah, it doesn't have very many thorns. But I know we have one around here that has a lot of the thorns on it. I don't see it. This is a honey locust. You don't want to lean up against it because it has some really, really wicked thorns on it. You can see right here on that side of the tree, and these things are hard.
Oh, and some of them are green. Is that the younger ones, Sherl?
Yes. There are a lot of locust trees around here, and one thing I was always told by my grandparents about locust trees is, especially the black locust, settlers used to use that for fence posts because they're rot resistant. I could see, and I have no documentation on this, but I could see Native Americans taking those large thorns and drilling a hole in one end and using them for needles.
That's what I was just thinking.
Because as thick and tough as that is, I could see that you being able to pull that through a hide.
Also, you told me about the deer. That when the deer need to scratch themselves, you remember when we had the ranger and he had all those antlers, and he talked about the deer antlers, and so they scratch and they rub against the tree, and it can cause damage to the tree. And so that was one of their protective mechanisms.
Right, because when deer grow new antlers, because they shed their antlers every year, and when they grow new antlers, it's called velvet because there's a very soft, velvety looking coating on their antlers. Well, they have to scrub that off to get to the underneath where it's hard. And so they will rub against trees to rub that velvet off. And so sometimes you will see a spot on a tree that has been rubbed, and that's where the deer have rubbed their antlers against it to get that velvet off. Now, this tree right here, this identified as hedge apple, is a really, really cool tree. It had lots of uses. It's also called Osage orange, named after the Osage Indians. And one of the other names for it is bodock. It has a beautiful orange wood. The reason it's also called bodock is because the Native Americans would use it to make their bows from. And when you pull an arrow back, that's called docking the bow, bodock. So that's where you get the bodock from. Bodock, Osage orange, or hedge apple. And the reason they call them hedge apples, there aren't any around here laying on the ground, but the fruit on these things can get as big as a softball. And they're kind of a lime green.
With a lot of nubs, right?
With a lot of nubs.
Yeah.
When I was a child,
Comes out in the fall, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
When I was a child, I thought that looked like brains. That's the best way I could describe it. Was it looked like brains. But in the fall, you'll see them laying all around. And I've had many people ask me when we were on this trail if they're edible. And all I know is I have actually seen a recipe for making jelly from hedge apples. But like I said, you give them something enough sugar and you can make jelly out of anything. We're going uphill and then we'll go downhill. And the trees are pretty dense through here. Every once in a while you'll see a shaft of sunlight come through on the trail.
Black walnut. Now there was one at the other meadow, wasn't there, Sherl?
Yes, at that first, at that first meadow, there's a black walnut, and they do make a nut that has a very, very hard outer shell. I've never tried to crack one, and I don't see how in the world squirrels can chew through them, but they can. One of the interesting things about black walnuts is it produces a chemical substance called juglone that prevents anything from growing real close to it. So if you notice, there's some small plants growing around it, but there aren't any trees crowding up against it. And that's because of that substance, juglone, that it produces. And settlers used to use the green outer hulls of the walnuts for dyeing. I've actually used it before, and to dye cloth, and you get a really pretty brown with it.
That's the ink they used to use to write with.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
And you can it had a lot of uses.
That's why old 1800s paper, the ink is brown and not black like we use now.
But there are some very, very old trees in here, especially a lot of those beeches. And we have, haven't seen it yet, but we have groves of pawpaw trees in here too. And pawpaws actually produce a fruit that has a kind of custardy, banana, mango type flavor. The wildlife loves it.
It's an interesting looking leaf.
I have my phone, otherwise I'd use my iNaturalist app.
There's something. Now what's
Now that's from the locust. That's a seed pod.
from the honey locust? Oh, okay. Pretty.
We always called them like beans.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're related to peas and beans, just like redbud trees.
Yeah.
Redbuds will produce a pod.
Mm-hmm.
They are related to peas and beans.
Interesting.
There's a shrike, and it's actually a carnivorous bird, and it will catch mice, other birds, grasshoppers, whatever, and it will impale its prey on a thorn like on the honey locust or on the barbs on barbed wire.
Do we have those here?
I believe we do. But shrikes are one of the songbirds that are on the decline.
Oh, what is this little critter thing? There's some that are brown as well.
That looks like a black walnut fruit, but it's a
Okay.
small one. I believe that's what that is. Now this is a pretty cool grapevine. That's a big one too. You see it looks like an elbow right here.
It does.
It's come out. It actually forks there. And part of it goes that way, and this one comes out and goes up the tree. And there's another section of it behind it. That can get quite big. We're coming toward the end of the trail now. And we'll be coming out of the woods shortly into a little meadow.
Is that grapevine wrapped around that one? It's smooth looking, a lot smoother.
no,
no, they're over here.
Cheryl.
This tree
Where?
right there.
Oh, there?
It doesn't
That's
look woody
great.
like it.
No,
Yeah.
No,
that
that doesn't
doesn't-
look like the other ones.
I wonder if that is. And it goes up. Is it an early grapevine? But it's not woody like it.
It's smooth
Yeah.
and green. I don't see any leaves on it.
Mm-mm. It goes all the way up the tree though.
I wonder if that's one of those green briars, but I don't see any briars on it.
So how do we get all the different types of trees in this woods? Because no one's out here just planting a magnolia seed.
A lot of it is from the birds. They'll eat the seeds and it'll pass through their digestive system. And they drop it, and you get this widespread dispersal of seeds, and that's probably how we got a lot of the trees here. That and squirrels. Squirrels will they'll get a walnut or acorn or whatever, and if they don't need it right then, they'll go bury it for later use, and then sometimes they forget where they buried it, and
They do that outside of our offices. It's so fun to watch them.
so they're planting trees for us.
There's another cedar tree.
Oh yeah, that's a really small one.
The I don't know, the leaves or the foliage almost looks like lace,
Mhm.
light kind of a greenish blue lace effect. It's very pretty.
And the young trees are really have a really pretty pyramid type shape. And that's kind of the traditional Christmas tree for West Tennessee is a young eastern red cedar.
Now, aren't they full of thorns or something? Or
No, but some people are allergic to them.
okay,
The needles can be irritating,
okay.
but they have a wonderful scent. And as Sherri said, cedar, people make furniture and all kinds
It's
of
very
mementos.
hardy wood. And it smells, and
It smells.
we put it in the closet, right?
Mhm.
That's right, to repel moths.
There's another.
So here's our other bat house, and we're at the end of the trail, looking down upon the pond
And the herb garden.
and the urban pollinator gardens.
And I just wanted to mention, recently Cheryl gave a personal tour of our herb garden. And so when you're watching this on the internet, please look for the other video of her giving the personal tour of the herb garden. Thank you, Cheryl.
And also watch for an updated tour that will be coming up probably in a few weeks when more things are in bloom and when we're in prime butterfly season. So I'll be giving another tour and pointing out the different kinds of butterflies that inhabit those gardens. Of course, we have a lovely setting area down here with a swing. And you can sit there and watch the turtles or watch our resident plain-bellied water snake hunt for frogs.
The other day I was out here and one of our turtles in the water is getting huge. He's pretty big. I'm not sure if that's the same one I saw the other day or not.
And there used to be at least 3 turtles in this pond. And I have seen bats at dusk fly down and scoop up water, drink water from this pond. So it's a really important water source in this area.
And one of the things I'd like to point out here is we have 3 benches behind the arbor. And so this is a great place. You're always in the shade. And then in the spring, we've got 3 cherry trees here. And they are gorgeous in the spring when they bloom. And they're only blooming for about 2 weeks. We have lots of photos on Facebook of them in bloom. This area is just a lot of people do their senior pictures here.
Mm-hmm. And when everything is in full bloom, it's a great place to butterfly watch, to watch for hummingbirds.
The arbor does have built-in benches in it, so if anyone wants to sit there.
And it won't be long before our lavender is blooming, and when the lavender is blooming, you can sit there and get a whiff of that scent, and it's so relaxing. Most of our plants out here in these gardens are labeled. We're working on getting them all labeled so that, if you see something you like, you can pretty much find out what it is. And that way you can go to your local garden center and say, hey, do you have phenomenal lavender? When we open back up to the public, of course, the grounds are open now, but if you browse through the gardens and you see something you have a question about, you come in and ask us. We're more than happy to answer your questions. And please let your friends, neighbors, and families know about the museum. This is a gem here in Tipton County, and so many people don't know we're here. So please let everybody know about it. Tell them we're on Facebook. They can check out our videos on YouTube. But get the word out, because this is a wonderful place and it's free.